Reddit, what's your never again story? Once I made 2 terrible food decisions in a single day. This was years ago when I was in my middle 20s. I woke up hungry and went to the fridge to grab some leftover Taco Bell. But I'd accidentally forgotten it in the car overnight. Still, I thought if I microwaved it, it'll be fine. So I ate a Taco Bell chicken quesadilla that had been sitting out for over 20 hours. Just as I was finishing it up, my buddy called and begged me to join him on a just friends hang session with this girl he was trying to date. They wanted to go to this Asian seafood place I'd always seen driving by, but never been to. So we go, and they have a kind of mini seafood super platter that's meant to feed the whole table. Like a super sampler. We get that, it's supposed to feed 6, but we finish it off as a party of 4. That afternoon, it began. My friend called and asked if I was feeling bad from the seafood, and I told him yeah, but it was probably something from earlier in the day for me. He said, yeah, we are feeling a little queasy too, but we've got tickets tonight so we're just gonna drink water and go for it. I got a date, woo. I wished him luck and went back to Fallout 3. By midnight I thought I was going to turn inside out. It was so bad, I would have called 911 if my phone had been in the bathroom with me, but it was on my nightstand and I physically could not get to it. I could hear it ringing occasionally, so I hoped that whoever was trying to call would stop by and take me to the hospital. It was the longest night of my life. But by early afternoon the next day, I was coming around. I tried to stay hydrated by letting shower water run into my mouth during the event. The toilet was right next to the tub and I could sit and hang my head into the tub at the same time under the shower head. So I just ran the shower on my head, crapped my guts out the back, and vomited my soul out the front. Turns out the calls late at night were my buddy, calling to come pick them up because they had both had accidents at the concert, on their first date. They're married now. This was before Uber or Lyft in case anyone is wondering. They finally managed to get his uncle to get them. Never again. TLDR, double ultra food poisoning, while friends shit themselves on their first date. Edit, cleaned up the grammar and syntax somewhat. I've always been bad about sloppy draft-style writing, but I know it can bother people sometimes. Sounds like the time the only things in my kitchen were tuna and vodka. If you're ever in that situation, pick one. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a vodka. Edit, Meteorite 12 has confirmed my suspicions. You definitely cannot tune a vodka. 103 temperature, sicker than a dog from the flu and constipated. I was miserable. I took 4 fiber pills in the morning and had hallucination fits for the next 4 to 5 hours. Desperately trying to get some sleep, I took an Ambien sleeping pill, extra strength. Woke up 9 hours later not constipated anymore and having to do a shitload of laundry. I've told this story before and it's probably not the type of story you were expecting, but it fits the question, so here you go. Okay, so this requires a bit of backstory. When my wife and I first got together we lived in a tiny apartment and shared a twin bed. This situation continued even after she got pregnant. This of course substantially reduced my sleeping area. We slept in a spooning position. One night, when she was about 7 months pregnant, I awoke in the middle of the night and tried to readjust the blanket to recover myself. It often would end up bunched up between us, so I reached down to find it and pull it back up. There was some resistance, but I assumed that she had her foot on it or something. So I pulled harder and kept pulling, assuming it would come free any second now. At this point my wife turned her head around and angrily asked what the fuck I was doing. Turned out that I was not pulling the blanket. I had grabbed the back of her underwear and was forcefully pulling them up her asscrack. I broke out laughing and couldn't stop for quite a while. She was substantially less amused and even less so after my explanation. So the mistake I will never make again is TLDR, never tell an angry, rudely awoken pregnant woman that you mistook her underwear for a blanket. Especially if you're laughing hysterically at the time. Edit, my wife assures me that the several times she's elbowed me in the throat in her sleep over the last 8 years are in no way related to this event. Edit 2, just told my wife her underwear had over 12K karma. Rode an Amtrak train from New Orleans to Washington, D.C. I thought I was a prodigy by choosing coach seating over a sleeper car or flying as I was saving some money by doing so. Jump forward to 25 hours in the same seat, dude next to me pulling a Germany vs Poland invasion of the armrest, baby screaming all night in the back of the car and I couldn't sleep. The toilet situation had deteriorated onboard to the point where I would use elbows and my boots to open and close the door and flush the toilet as my fellow riders were baffled by the concept of flushing and utilizing a trash bin for paper towels. I've been awake 25 hours by this point and it's 3:45 a.m. If I ever do this, it's gonna be in a sleeper car, fuck the savings. Murder on the Orient Express had the right idea. Edit, holy crap, my inbox has been blowing up all day today. Lol, I am glad there are other people who shared this type of experience. Edit 2, might need to make a post myself about travel horror stories. Jesus guys. I was the designated driver for my son's 21st birthday. He was out with dad and about 10 of his close friends, so I was pretty busy driving back and forth schlepping them all home. Finally, I get the call from dad that it's time, and our son needs to go home. My son is in the back seat with one of his friends when I feel a hand come from behind and grope my boob, then quickly moves down to my inner thigh. My son then says, "What do I need to do to get me some of that?" We don't talk about that night. Edit, update, I'm humbled by the gold, most generous stranger. Thank you. Easiest to respond to questions, hate here as my inbox has imploded. Most of you were kind in your comments and found it humorous, laughter was my goal in sharing smiley face. No, it wasn't the friend, as he was sitting near the door and my son had to lean forward from the backseat. While I used the phrase blackout drunk, I believe it could have even crossed into alcohol psychosis or hallucinations. No, I do not have a medical background. Just my thoughts based on his complete disconnect from reality. Thank you to those that were concerned about alcohol poisoning. Yes, after the car ride home, I also had this concern. Dad and I kept a close watch on him while he slept it off. This happened 8 years ago. Yes, men find me attractive. I believe my shape, size reminded him of his GF. As for the hate, my son is not a sexual predator, period. He was raised knowing how to treat a woman, there was no need to counsel him. I know my son, and his personality is absolutely not that forward or aggressive, drunk or sober. I believe he mistook me for his girlfriend, and this was an example of the banter they shared. Thank you to the fellow Redditors that shared their drunken stories. I have no doubt that their night of drunkenness in no way is a reflection of who they are. I was once in a bet to do an apple juice challenge, in where I had 30 minutes to drink a gallon of apple juice. Not too hard, right? Easy $5 to be made? Not so much. What my asshole friends didn't tell me is that when you drink so much apple juice in such a small amount of time it all needs to exit the body, butthole style. What followed were the most intense, volcano blasting, a hole destroying hours of my life. It was like a fire hose spraying acid that some dickhead lit on fire. I didn't complete the challenge, I lost $5, and I even paid for the apple juice. Never fucking again apple juice, never again. Edit, wow, thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Edit, glad you're all enjoying the tale of my butt peeing lava, and to all of you who have done similar things, I feel your pain. Quick funny note about that night, there was a girl I was into there and she was also outside the door with the cackling jerks listening to me become a human fire hydrant. We did not get together, lol. Was younger and way more stupid. Got the chance to score meth and decided to get some to see what the hoopla is all about. Loaded all 0.3 grams that I bought and chased the white dragon. Spent the next 22 hours alternating between jerking off and being on all fours all around my house trying to find meth crumbs behind the fridge that must have mysteriously gotten there while I brought the baggie from the front door straight to my room. Shit's nasty, Maine. Do you hear that, kids? Do meth once and you turn into Gollum. When I was 6, I distinctly remember my mom saying, "Don't lick that grill, Aaron, or it will really hurt." I licked it. Edit, oh my god. My highest upvoted thing ever. You lick the grill? Edit, I feel like an asshole for getting gold off of a reference to Sprague's poem, but thanks. The grill was very hot. My name Aaron. And when I see a flaming grate, it called to me. I do not heed my mother's trill. I use my tongue. I lick the grill. Edit, thank you for the gold, kind stranger. Timeshare presentation. I now know what hell is like. 8 hours of my life I'll never get back. And of course the free trip was impossible to get. We will call you on Monday sometime in the next 2 months, then you need to fly out on Tuesday and come back Wednesday. Went to a timeshare presentation in Mexico. The guy hit us up leaving the airport. As this was not our first time, we entered the room with the lady who was pitching, and told her, in all honesty, we will listen to your pitch, but we are not buying anything. We are only here for the free stuff. She was pissed. Told us we were wasting people's time, and gave us the vouchers and told us to leave. But not before I chewed her ass about blindsiding people who had just got off a plane and were looking forward to a vacation. Totally worth it, and didn't have to even listen to the hour-long pitch. My dad had a retired friend who would go to these for the freebies. When the presentation started, he would pull out his hearing aids and set them on the table in front of him. Some salesmen would still go through the whole presentation, but others would just give up after a few minutes. That is awesome, I gotta buy some fake hearing aids. I don't drink Southern Comfort anymore, I don't remember why, and that's part of the reason. Asking a woman when her baby is due. Doesn't really need a story. It went as imagined. God, this reminds me of a cringy story from my elementary school years. Bigger kid in class got cast as Santa Claus in a school play. I walk to biggest girl in classroom and asks if she tried out for Mrs. Santa Claus. She asks, why? Immediately say, 'cause you're fat. As the words left my mouth, so did my lunch, 'cause she punched my square in the balls, which I rightfully deserved. I'm sorry, Sandy. I was young, stupid, and didn't have a filter. Never, ever ask a woman if she's pregnant unless you see an actual baby being born. Even then, act surprised. Drank an entire bottle of whiskey, by myself. I know many people can handle this. I know now that I am not one of those people. Edit, if you need someone to talk to, need help, or need help getting someone help, please try Al-Anon. You are loved, and you are worth getting help. Edit number 2, Al-Anon is for family members of alcoholics. Still a good group, and they do good work. They helped me, which is why I mentioned them first. But, if you're the one having troubles with drinking, please get help through Stop Drinking or Alcoholics Anonymous. Please don't wait. You can do this. The story, what I can remember, I had just moved out on my own. A young, adorable, but way above average in idiocy and pride, me hosted a housewarming party. Keep in mind that up until this point, I had never had anything stronger than a Zima. Friend, I bet you can't drink that bottle of Jack Daniels by yourself. Me, fuck you, I bet I can. I proceeded to take shot, after shot, after shot, until the bottle was empty. I chased each of these shots with grape juice. Why, you idiot, why? Finished the bottle. T-7 minutes, I went to my car because I needed the pajamas that were in the backseat. I don't know if you've ever had pants that you nicknamed the Jesus pants, but I did, and I needed them now. By the time I got to my car I had forgotten how to unlock it. T-5 minutes, the other party goers found me outside. I later found out I was just standing at the car, tapping the window. They were nice enough to get the Jesus pants out of the car, and told me to come inside. It was at this point I forgot how to walk. So, I fell instead. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Blacked out. T-2 minutes, I wake up to them carrying me down the hall. 5 4 3 2 1, Houston, we have liftoff. I threw up for the first, but dear God, not the last time, right in front of my door. Blackout again. They tucked me in, sort of. I came to head first in a moving box they'd found. I threw up in the box. A lot. Until I decided that probably wasn't a good idea, and made way for the bathroom. Blackout again. Wake up in bathtub, vomiting on myself. Climb out of bathtub, but lay beside bathtub and continue vomiting into tub. Blackout again. Wake up, still vomiting into tub. But now I am at that point where I am vomiting up things I don't recognize. I remember thinking I was internally bleeding because whatever I was throwing up was bright red. I was not. Someone decided it would be a good idea to continually give me Gatorade and water throughout the night. But I don't remember drinking it. This is probably why I didn't end up in the hospital or dead. So, thank you. Really. Blackout. Wake up. Vomit. Repeat ad nauseum. This was my life for the next few hours until I mercifully passed out on the floor. Cold tile, you are my first true love. I saw that stain outside my front door every day, until I moved. A dark reminder, never again. TLDR, don't take the dare or you'll wake up, in a box, in your own vomit. Trust me, you don't want to be one of those people. It sucks being one of those people, because every time you go out, either A, you can't get drunk at all, or B, you overestimate your powers and end up drinking 6 beers and a half-gallon of vodka. Followed by a few hours of puking, and for some reason taking off your clothes, puking more, and more. Then falling asleep by the toilet, waking up and going to the couch cause you don't wanna be in your bed cause you're sweaty and honestly don't know if you are covered in puke. Then you wake up a few hours later freezing your ass off cause you stripped naked. Then you wake up, shower, sleep for 7 hours, and can't keep a thought in your head for more than 10 seconds cause of how hungover you are. Also that's how hangovers are for me, I'm just tired and can't think straight. I feel bad for people who have headaches or whatever, I've never felt that. Edit, did not expect this attention lol, thanks Reddit. Now my most upvoted anything is about getting extremely drunk. Never again will I ever loan money to a friend. My mum gave me some stellar advice, don't lend money, give it. And if you get it back it's a bonus. Just came back from a 3-week backpacking trip with 5 other people. Trip was just originally just 3 others, my BF, brother and cousin, but 2 friends wanted to join. Jesus Christ. You gotta keep those trips intimate. And preferably, with family. The 2 add-ons didn't want to do any of the same stuff we did, couldn't keep up, didn't want to try any local food, complained about walking, only packed flip-flops, commented after 30 minutes at the Louvre that it was just a bunch of paintings, etc. 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 Worst mistake. The original squad all chanted never again at least 50 times each the entire trip. So yeah, never again. I rented a beach cabin with 7 other people. 3 of them were content with just sitting on the beach, the rest of us got antsy and wanted to do things like play mini golf and visit a few breweries. The 3 beach bums were highly incensed that we wanted to split off. They didn't get that we're all adults and not everybody has to always be doing the same thing all the time. I was offered a Lay's potato chip covered in what I was told was blueberry sauce. Gross, but bearable. Put the whole goddamn thing in my mouth and it turned out to be blueberry ghost pepper sauce. Screw that guy. Edit, asking the guy in question about what brand it was. We'll report back. Edit 2, it's this stuff. I wonder what's inside the medicine capsules? What if I just eat that directly instead of swallowing the pill? Empties onto tongue and promptly gag. You need to be careful with that, with some medicines that are designed to be time-released, that is a good way to overdose. Ah, tastes like ass. Dies. Awful way to go to be sure. I wouldn't want the last thing I tasted as I died to be ass. Well, yeah no, not ass. Being young and stupid enough to drink whatever mixed drinks my friends were handing me at the bar when I was in college. This was about 8 years ago and I was probably 22 at the time. Before this I had only ever really had beer. My friend knew the bartender at the place we were hanging out. She was making the drinks WAAAY too strong. I remember one of the last drinks I had that night was called Adios Motherfucker. After we left the bar, I'm told I refused to stick with the group and ended up walking a few miles to the other side of town because I'm a complete idiot. At some point I realized I was super drunk and literally called the police on myself because I was sick, puking and lost. They ended up calling an ambulance. I had no insurance at the time and it cost me $600. Apparently when you're that drunk the police won't just take you home, didn't expect that and paid the price. Edit, people have commented that $600 is cheap for an ambulance ride. The bill from the hospital was huge and actually fucked up my credit score because I was broke. I woke up in the hallway of the hospital sprawled out on a gurney the following morning. I had puked on my shirt so at some point they had put me in a hospital gown. Eventually hospital staff realized I was up and moving around. They were all excited because apparently they had some sort of bet for how long I was going to be passed out. They handed me a pamphlet about the dangers of binge drinking and I was out the door. Edit, the staff was actually really helpful and gave me some sports drinks to help me out. They didn't just kick me out. I just didn't want to get that deep into it. I walked 1.5 miles back to my house with my hospital attire blowing in the breeze. I had to stop to puke twice. The funniest part about this lovely walk home is that it was smack in the middle of all the student housing by my college. I had long hair at the time and it was all greasy and crazy. My appearance was a mix between escaped mental patient, infected by zombie virus but hadn't yet fully turned. The looks I was getting from people I passed on the sidewalk were priceless, and even in my terribly ill state I had a few laughs at myself for how ridiculous this ordeal was. I managed to get home to take a shower and sleep for a couple of hours before having to go to work at Jimmy John's as a delivery driver. Edit: I never really knew what it meant to say rip my inbox, but I've reached that point. Thanks for all the laughs. I've commented on as many of your responses as I could. Thanks for all the upvotes, this was so much fun. Stay away from those AMFs. I had no idea it was a popular drink until today. Back in the days before soft contact lenses, you were supposed to clean them with hydrogen peroxide and then use a special neutralizer tablet afterwards. I forgot to use the neutralizer before I put my contacts in. Hydrogen peroxide in your eye hurts. Every man eventually learns the lesson that muscle rub should never be used to treat a groin pull or similarly place ailment. Honestly, it's a wild ride but not a bad one. Felt like my bits were being gently warmed in the hands of a lover and at the same time like I was teabagging a stream full of glacial meltwater. Kinda exhilarating. Cave exploring. The serious kind, with lights, helmets, and occasional crawling. Fascinating while you're doing it, but scary as hell in hindsight. Ample opportunities to get seriously injured or worse, in the last place in the world you'd want to be rescued from. Or worse, expelled? I ate half a pound of sugar-free Haribo bears. There was no mercy. Edit: rip inbox. Double edit for anyone wondering how that experience went. I bought them cause they were on sale and I figured it can't be that bad. I get home and start eating them. They taste pretty good and I'm doing fine. 30 minutes to an hour later I decided I needed a drink, and the moment I stood up it hit me. I had what felt like a ball of fire in my gut and I ran to the bathroom. The second my ass hit the seat I sprayed with the force of a truck going downhill. The dye in them is overpowered by the red dye apparently, cause I look down and it's all red. I could literally feel the heat radiating off of the disaster I am currently brewing in the toilet. About 30 minutes of pain later I think it's all over. Stand up and nope, get ready for round 2 my dude. I could have flown to the moon if it weren't for me clutching the toilet as strongly as I can. It was at this point I truly learned my lesson. The spraying was back and this time it brought friends. Imagine a waterfall with coconuts falling down the falls. Basically that was my next 15 minutes. Finally, after retaining proper anus control, I go back to the couch where I flopped down face first and slept for 6 hours. Gave the other half pound to my sister and told her not to eat these unless you need to cure some constipation. What I wish was a never again story. Masturbating after forgetting to wear gloves while making spicy salsa from scratch. Current count 3 times. I am an idiot. A few years ago, I was leading a missions trip to Vietnam, Cambodia with a large group of 20-somethings. There was a dude on our team who was a recovering heroin addict. I had no idea, but leadership knew and did not inform me. In light of this, and his issue with alcohol, leadership had the brilliant idea to move him from the Japan team and move him to the fucking Vietnam, Cambodia team so he could be with a guy who they felt had a positive influence on him. If you've never been to Saigon or Phnom Penh, you can't go a block in the touristy areas without being solicited to buy some sort of drug or a prostitute. Shockingly, he used heroin again, and convinced another one of our students that heroin is awesome and he should totally try it. We had to send them both home. It fucking sucked. TLDR. Took 24 mostly sheltered young adults to the most lawless parts of the most lawless countries in Asia for 3 months. While I was watching the other 23, the secret heroin addict used heroin. Never taking an addict to Southeast Asia again. I worked as a tower hand for a construction company. I used to take of my lanyard and move between booms 500 to 600 feet up. I also would slide down the outside legs untethered because it was faster than climbing down the ladder. I cringe when I think about that. There was zero chance of survival if I fell. So you're the reason everyone has to watch those safety videos. The resort I stayed at in the Dominican Republic had a swim-up bar in the pool. The cocktail of the day was a piña colada. Being of newly legal drinking age and at an all-inclusive resort, and also not yet having a taste for hard alcohol, thus resorting to getting pickled off coolers and cocktails, I went hard on piña coladas. One after the other, in rapid succession. What I didn't know was that, when you drink while swimming, being weightless in the water means that you don't realize you're drunk until you're really fucking drunk. I ended up getting a lot more intoxicated than I had anticipated, possibly the most I've ever been in my life. I don't remember anything between being dragged out of the pool by my parents and sitting in the corner of our hotel room, crying. Thus began many hours of tears, double vision, vomiting into the toilet, and fading in and out of consciousness on the bathroom floor. I couldn't smell alcohol for 3 days without physically feeling sick to my stomach. I still drink, but because of that memory, piña coladas have been forever ruined for me. I went down in the pantry of my grandma's house and ate 45-year-old peaches from a jar. Did you know the human body is capable of shitting peaches in roughly the same consistency they were consumed? Me either. Am I the only one thinking Stanley Yelnats? Elementary school age. During the 80s. My great-uncle gave my dad a jug of homemade wine. He put it right next to the apple juice. I got lit up despite insisting that this apple juice tasted weird. Went off to school. I'm never drinking wine again. I lost my virginity once. Never again. 19th birthday, fake ID, 8 Irish car bombs. Yes, 8. Ended up throwing up in the passenger seat of my Pontiac Grand Am, insisted I be dropped off at my ex-boyfriend's apartment, knocked on his door completely naked. Woke up hugging the toilet at 3 p.m. the next day with my first ever hangover in the apartment my ex-boyfriend shared with his new girlfriend. She lent me clothes to go home in, nice gal. I bartended for years afterward. I refused to make an Irish car bomb my entire bartending career. The smell of Baileys still makes my stomach turn. Never again. Edit, refused, was definitely the wrong word to use. Luckily, I had fantastic coworkers with similar experiences. On the rare occasion an Irish car bomb was ordered, my coworkers were willing to take over the order and spare me the feelings of nausea and regret. Your ex-boyfriend and his girlfriend were incredibly kind that evening. I don't know if they were in general, but definitely that evening. Going to the zoo on the first warm day of the year. 1,063,531,313 people. Edit, of course my highest rated comment by far ever on Reddit is on my sexy time throwaway. Had a Baconator for lunch and dinner 3 days in a row. I was working long shifts and there was a Wendy's across the parking lot from where I was. After I finished dinner on day 3, my body says, "You must shit now." I shit my pants running to the bathroom. Had to clean up, and head back to work with no underwear. 0 tense, though I occasionally went to work commando on hot days after this. Maybe it would have been a good idea to explore the rest of Wendy's menu instead of going on an all-Baconator diet. I trusted a fart once. Horrifically shat my pants. Never again. My father said this after we were in China and he ate a Korean sasuage from a street vendor. About 10 hours later he broke loose the biggest fart I've heard on the streets. I could see in his face that something was wrong, very wrong, and he just said to my mom, "We have to get to the hotel now." Now we jokingly say, "Never trust a fart." I was in Reykjavik, Iceland and I was bar hopping and ended up in some sort of Viking metal bar. It wasn't really my scene but I was having a when in Rome moment. Anyway, at some point during the set, this super intimidating looking Viking dude calls for his thrall and this chick comes out holding a vat of what I hope was sheep's blood. He reaches into the vat, smears the blood on his face while screaming something in Icelandic, and then flicks his hands sending a little blood spatter to the crowd. I have never noped out of a place so hard. Edit, so Viking death metal is now my top comment ever. Iceland truly is a magical place. Never again will I engage in any sort of eating race. About 10 years back, I worked for Walmart, and my coworker and I would always take breaks together. I think he and I were in a constant unspoken competition to be the weirdest Walmart employee. We both wore fake name tags, and we'd use the paging system inappropriately, but all in all, we were hard workers so our bosses never got onto us. Well, one day in the break room we decided to have a race that involved eating a cinnamon roll and chasing it with a cup full of maple syrup. We had a small audience for the event. We were sitting across the table from each other when someone said go, and before I could even unwrap my cinnamon roll he slammed down his cup of maple syrup. I asked him, "How did you eat that so fast?" He said, "I just swallowed it whole." I demanded a rematch and bought him another cinnamon roll from the vending machine. This time, I was determined to win. Someone said go, and I shoved the cinnamon roll in the back of my mouth, grabbed the syrup and swallowed, but I didn't swallow. I inhaled the cinnamon roll into my esophagus and began choking. Everyone was laughing until I leapt up from the table, causing one whole side of the table to collapse, spilling multiple people's lunches onto the floor. Then I heard someone say, "Dude, she's choking." I pointed at that guy and vigorously shook my head as I stumbled around the break room making the international sign for choking. I remember people saying, "Do something. Does anyone know the Heimlich?" No one was helping, they were just all in shock watching me frantically hit myself repeatedly in the chest. It was then I decided to run as fast as I could into a counter and ram my rib cage. Then I just grabbed the edge of the sink and repeatedly used my arms to pull my chest to the counter and ram my ribs. After about 3 times I spun around and a fist-sized cinnamon roll bullet shot out of my throat and splattered on the floor like a snowball. I took the biggest breath of air into my lungs after about a full minute of choking, and my coworker says, "You totally lost." The choking incident in the break room was all the talk around work for some time, and the fact that I high-kicked a table in half and wrecked about 4 people's lunches. I was reading the tea tree oil as antibacterial. I wanted to use it around my eyes since I recently had a tiny painful infection in my eyelash gland. I did not read that it has to be diluted. I was beet red around the eyes, the burning would not stop, dish soap and icing helped. It looked like I just got hit in both eyes. Fuck you tea tree oil. When you say icing, I'm pretty sure you meant holding ice to your eyes, but I pictured the sugar paste kind. And now, as my eyes burn in agony, I will carefully apply the buttermilk blue icing, to counteract the burning red chemical burn. Today I'm using a delicate flower to really give it some character. If anyone in the audience is a doctor, please help. Loaning money to a friend. Lost the money and the friend. Not a very good deal. Lent $1,000 to a coworker once. Took almost 6 months to get it back, meanwhile she is posting pics of her out on the town and doing expensive activities while claiming she doesn't have it yet. Haven't spoken to her since. I pre-ordered Battlefront. Fuck you, EA. I went to the city with my friend 2 months ago and we hit up 2 bars. At the second, a shady guy was close to our drinks. He tried bringing her home but was having trouble. I awkwardly stepped away to the bathroom and had her in charge of our drinks. Unfortunately, mine was spiked with meth by time he left the table. We went back to her place about an hour or so later and then smoked pot. It really hit me then. It was this crazy high where it seemed like the room was crystal clear but spinning and I was surrounded by demons or something. That's not the crazy part though. 4 days later I had a delayed reaction. I started hallucinating before work but I didn't realize it. I drove there, fine, and then things felt normal. Then I went for a walk around my lunch break and lost touch with reality. I started walking normally, but the moment the sun hit my face, I was gone. I started walking and talking with God. I ripped my necklaces off and made DNA in the snow with the metal, and then I ripped off my clothes. Everything else is a blur, but I believe I even broke into a house or 2 while people were home just spewing gibberish at them. I was found naked trying to break into a middle school apparently. My brain chemistry was so fucked that after I was brought to the hospital, I was still seeing English turn into Hebrew on the doors for a few days. I was in a mental health unit for about 6 days trapped. A month after that I had another incident because my medication wasn't set up right. The doctors diagnosed me with bipolar disorder and said that even though I was drugged, I had an underlying mental illness that was brought out by my experience. So my never again is to trust a friend alone with my drink with a shady guy. I almost lost my job over this. I could have been in jail over this. I could have hurt someone or I could have been seen by children. My entire life could have been ruined. I may have even made the local paper. The rumor mill reached my workplace, of course. I'm known as the naked girl on something something road. I have no idea where to go from here. As someone who has had drinks spiked twice, let me please PSA here. Do not trust your drink with anyone. Even the bartender. Even a really close best friend. Even if there is no one shady around. It only takes a second and like you, everybody else at the bar is there to do something, and that something is not watching your drink. It's working the bar, cueing the music, talking to someone, checking their texts, whatever. Finish your drink before you go to the bathroom, out for a smoke, on the dance floor. Every time you do not, you are taking the risk that it's going to be tampered with. And it is not worth it. Miss the song, hold your gotta go, let your eyeliner smudge a little. That can wait because the alternative is so much worse. And along those lines, don't take drinks from anybody unless it's straight from the bartender's hands. For real. In both situations where my drinks were tampered with, I was with close friends and close friends were watching the drinks, but just not closely enough. Fortunately, because I was with these people, whoever it was never got away with anything other than fucking up my night. Well, in one situation I apparently danced for an hour after sitting the sidelines for a while and had a great time to appearances, but that was peak club days. I was a goddamn tank. It could have been much worse. Just want to double back on your comment as someone who has seen it and who has been spiked. My cousin's drink was spiked and I had a drink spiked before, 2 different occasions. I was drinking with my cousin pre-wedding party. She might be 5 feet 6 inches, but that girl can drink anyone under the table. I remember she hit a wall and went 0 to 100 within a half drink, which is unusual because it was only her 3rd drink that night. She went from coherent to flat-out QWOP mode and could barely keep her head up. That's the danger, she can still respond like a drunk, so it appears like she's had too much. From her angle, because I was roofied a month later, I was drinking rum and cokes and feeling a good buzz. I know what it's like getting drunk, so I have a good understanding of all my drunk phases. This was different, I went from a good buzz to blackout in a single drink. According to my friends, I was belligerent and screaming song lyrics stumbling around the party. I remember nothing between 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. the next day. Literally anybody can just move you around. You're totally out of it and at the mercy of those people around you. I got badly bullied for breastfeeding my 2nd child in public without a cover. When I say badly bullied, I mean up to and including death threats. My first didn't make it easy, but I did keep them under a cover and stayed as out of sight as I could on top of that. My second was deathly afraid of being covered or of just about any cloth touching their face. It was either stay home until my second baby was weaned or breastfeed uncovered in public. I chose the latter and, despite people who knew our family and that I kept covered with the first one, was accused of exhibitionism and threatened with violence just for feeding my kid. If I ever have more kids, I'm not gonna care at all. I won't go out of my way to be seen or not seen. I have nothing to be ashamed of. Never again will I hide breastfeeding, come at me. Edit, thanks for the gold. My boyfriend's father gave us 2 bags of smoked venison sausages his friend made. We froze one and left the other in the fridge. I guess because it was smoked I couldn't tell when it spoiled, so one day I have some, and not 20 minutes later I almost crapped my pants. I ran to bathroom, and while I'm pooping out my soul I just start vomiting into the sink, which was luckily right next to the toilet. I spent the whole day in there spewing smoked vomit and poo, and I haven't eaten anything smoked or venison since. Doing a shots-only night on 6th Street. Closest I have ever come to death. My friend's place where we were staying was 4 blocks away. I barely made one before I collapsed on the sidewalk, passed out. They had to get a pedicab to transport me the rest of the way. You know it's going to be bad when you start off with a 4-horseman shot. It was customary among my friends on everyone's 21st birthday to each buy the birthday boy, girl a shot at the bar. Unfortunately for me, I was the youngest of my friend group. I literally spent 20 minutes in the bar before I had to be escorted out because I was being belligerent. I woke up in my bed without any recollection of getting there. A note was next to me that said, "I had a lot of fun with you last night. You vomited on the ground, so watch your step. Less than 3 Katie." I still do not know who Katie is. Never again indeed. Started smoking for like a month this year. At first I thought I liked it. But then I realized it was a temporary effect, which just left a terrible taste in my mouth. Sports and singing also became harder. So I dropped it immediately. Never again. Once I hooked up with a girl who claimed to be actively practicing a number of pagan rituals and religions, and also was somehow Buddhist. Ended up being nuttier than a squirrel turd, tried to put a curse on me and stuff like that. Never again. As silly as it might be, I will always ask someone prior to sex if they claim to be or have at any point considered themselves to be spiritual beyond your basic belief in God. LMAO, this is some GTA 5 random encounter type of shit. Thanks for watching our video. If you like it, please smash the subscribe and like button to support the channel, so that we can create more quality content in the future.